This man, Eli Manning, was a historic quarterback for the NFL. When it comes to the full picture book, when it comes to the full biography that is the NFL, he has a chapter. And he deserves a chapter considering what he's achieved. Obviously, he's top 10 in passing yards in NFL history. Obviously, he's top 10 in passing touchdowns in NFL history. He's one of the best performing playoff quarterbacks in the NFL history as well. He's the greatest quarterback in one of the most historic franchises in the NFL when it comes to the New York Giants. Eli Manning has achievements that some quarterbacks could only dream of. He has 2 Super Bowls over Drew Brees. He defeated Brett Favre in the playoffs. He defeated Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs. And he's, unlike Aaron Rodgers, he can actually beat the 49ers when it comes to the playoff time. And of course, the creme de la creme is Tom Brady. He beat Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl. So he's done things, if we're bringing up like historic names that other quarterbacks could only dream of. This man right here, Eli Manning, Mr. Never shows an expression, never shows any personality. But let's kind of talk about it in a little bit more depth. What were the New York Giants in Eli Manning's time? Because I feel like people have some revisionist history. The reality is that the Eli Manning New York Giants throughout his tenure weren't that great of a team. And I am a huge New York Giant fan. Keep in mind, I'm not going to lie for Eli Manning, but throughout most of his tenure, they did not have a good offensive line. That is factually true. Throughout most of his tenure, he didn't have all-time great running back talent. He had Brandon Jacobs, he had Ahmad Bradshaw, and finally, when it comes to the tail end of his career, he got Saquon Barkley. Shout out Saquon, of course. But he didn't have all-time running back talent. He didn't even have all-time receiving talent. I like Victor Cruz. I like Hakeem Nicks. I like Plaxico Burress. I like Mario Manningham. I like OBJ again later on his year, but I like OBJ, and he helped OBJ have an historic season, a historic rookie year, and OBJ with injuries and all that stuff. Okay. But the talent compared to some of these other teams, when we compare it to Drew Brees' talent, Aaron Rodgers' talent, Tom Brady's talent, Peyton Manning's talent, you can see that there's an obvious gap. I can even compare it to Russell Wilson's talent. He never had elite talent throughout his tenure for the most of his career, arguably the entirety of his career. So offensive line wasn't great throughout the entirety. The weapons were cool, but nothing fantastic, nothing generational, nothing elite. But it must be that defense. It must be that amazing defense that everybody talks about. But when you really look into it, throughout most of the New York Giants tenure, that defense wasn't as great as people make it out. Now, in 2007 and 2011, the playoffs that led to their Super Bowl, they turned it up. More specifically, that defensive line, they turned it up 100%. There is some elite talent there. Jason Pierre-Paul, Osi Umenyiora, Justin Tucker, Michael Strahan. There's some talent there. I mean, I would say like 2 of them probably Hall of Famers, but there's some talent there. Nothing like crazy, but there is definitely talent. I really like Jason Pierre-Paul, keep you in mind. But most of the Giants' tenure, they were not a top 10 defense. They were average to bad defense most of the time. And the only time they were really a good defense was 2008, the year after they won the Super Bowl. And I'll be honest, Eli Manning did choke in the playoffs against the Eagles with Donovan McNabb. If he played good in that playoffs, they would have went back-to-back Super Bowl champions. 100%. That was the best roster the New York Giants ever had in 2008, and Eli Manning did choke. But I wanted to lay out all of this information, all this context for a reason. Eli Manning didn't have the greatest situation. Let's not pretend he did. He didn't have the greatest talent. And when he won the Super Bowl in 2011, that is the worst record that has ever won a Super Bowl. Imagine an 8th seed winning the NBA championship. That is what Eli Manning did in 2011. Going to the Super Bowl and winning it as a 9-7 record. So he was actually doing things with a lack of talent, with a lack of support system, and surprisingly was beating some of the most historical quarterbacks who had better situations, with Aaron Rodgers, with Brett Favre, beating Tom Brady, doing more than Drew Brees, doing more than Peyton Manning. But people still trying to come at his legacy. So I just wanted to make this video to give the full picture on who Eli Manning was, what Eli Manning did, and where his name is in the history books. Yes, he's a Hall of Famer.